I intend to resign as Prime Minister.
After a year and a half of using this optic, how on earth did I get here? Well, it all started at SHOT Show 2024. Somehow in a hurry to try and see all of the booths at SHOT Show, I stumbled across the Armament Technology booth, where you will randomly find brass facts.
Hey guys.
These guys are not only the distributor for the famous Elcan brand of optics, the Tangent Theta brand of long-range precision scopes, and ARD devices, but they also have a line of low-power variables called SAI. Based on the other brands they represent, I had to take a look. If you're wondering why this optic exists, it's because NATO armies have been moving towards LPVOs, like the SAI6 for the US Army, and the Vortex Razor optics floating in SOCOM, the VCOG used in the US Marine Corps, and the Attacker used by MARSOC, the Vortex Eleanor used by the British Army on the new KS-1, and finally the SAI6 designed for the Canadian Army's C8A4 rifles. This SAI6 is first focal, which are usually a bit heavier, and the rep said this thing was only 17 ounces. Well, technically 17.98 ounces, also known as 18 ounces. Of all the things that instantly sold me, it was the reticle. Thin crosshairs, wind holds, ranging guide. They do have a mil version as well, so they got you covered if you don't mind a black-only body. Both the BDC and mil use 0.1 mil adjustments. But I noticed the rapid aiming marks and the T-posts are thicker on the mil version, which makes it slightly better to see on 1X. And if you don't want to see your 1X at all, they offer a rapidless aiming version in mil for those who favor an external dot for 1X. The mil version also has a much brighter reticle on max illumination, including your tree markers and ranging section with way more reticle speckling. But this does help for sure using the 1X with the brighter illumination. Way more speckling, although this does help for using the 1X with this brighter illumination. As soon as I got home, I was able to land a discount on one and immediately bought the BDC version. The first thing I noticed is the included Tenebrex K-Flash. No joke, these things aren't cheap, so that's a nice touch to avoid making a second order if you want one as well. On the body, we find rubber turret cap lanyards, as well as the free Tenebrex scope caps that come with it. This is one of the nice things about having all of this Canadian tech under one roof if you're in the LPVO market, but you will have to buy your own throw lever that's not included. The zoom ring feels like the perfect amount of tension, so I don't think I'll be running a throw lever just yet for a few reasons. Overall, this is the most excited I've been about an LPVO in a long time, even amongst all of the options available to us these days, mainly due to the reticle. Before we mount and zero this optic, let's go over the reticle real quick. If you watched my videos before, you'll know I prefer thinner reticles so that they don't obstruct the object I'm targeting for precision. This reticle nailed this feature in my opinion, as well as the added 1 mil spaced wind holds. Above you'll find horizontal mils also spaced in 1 mil increments. Clearly this reticle extends to 800 meters if you're feeling extra, even though 600 is a more practical use. To the bottom left, you'll find a vertical ranging chart for 30-inch torso to head height for us Yankees, and the metric equivalent for mathematicians. In the center, we find a cross for your 100 meter zero and point of aim. By using this shape, not only is it easy to find for young or aging eyesight, but it allows your brain a chance to level the reticle as well, being fine enough for precision shots out to 150 or so on partial targets behind cover. The cross arms are half mil, which below gives you your 200 meter point of aim and impact here, before we get out to our 300 meter point of aim and impact here. Yes, the lines correlate to an 18-inch shoulder span in relation to distance as we go down the reticle to 800 meters. This last part here is what ATI calls the rapid aiming feature. Yes, these look big on 6X, but don't worry. They don't really cover anything in use when taking distance shots since they sit out of the way of the center and the BDC. These exist because this is a first focal plane optic and the reticle shrinks in relation to magnification, the fatal flaw on 1X with first focal reticles. You can see how hard it is to see this reticle in a busy environment, and even on presentation over a light background, it's not much better. Here on a bright colored target, it's still a challenge to see in person, even with this rapid aiming cross on 1X. We have 3 solutions to this, starting with design. We could go with the EOTech Voodoo, which has a huge reticle on 1x and easy to see minus the actual center point of aim here. Now when you magnify, the actual distance reticle thickness is too thick, defeating the whole purpose of the first focal plane optic. And this optic doesn't even do the 1x as well as a second focal plane variable. First focal, in my opinion, favors distance over the 1x, so the SAI wins here hands down. When comparing other top first focals, like the SIG T6, the Credo, the PLXC, and the Nightforce NX8, we still have some issues. The SIG has a crappy 1x reticle, which you can't see very well, with thicker lines on the max magnification in comparison to the SAI. The Credo has perfect line thickness on max magnification, but it misses wind hold options even though it has a great 1x, regardless of its dim illumination on the brightest setting. Only problem here is that it's second focal for the BDC version, and the only option in the first focal is a mill reticle, even though it retains the good 1x reticle design. The PLXC is somewhat manageable on 1x, but gets too thick and messy in my opinion compared to the SAI. Finally, we have the Nightforce, arguably the top contender in the low power world. But the 1x still sucks even on this white background. The T-post bars help a bit, but I still notice NX8 and attacker users taking 1x shots a bit slow, trying to see their center point of aim. Especially inside dark rooms with such a small black reticle on 1x. But you can always turn on the crazy bright illumination, as long as you have the battery life. This thing is crazy red dot bright, which will solve the 1x issue easy. This technology is now in the second focal Nova and PLXC from primary arms. Now the PLXC has a crazy offset glow on the entire reticle, even though this thing is just as bright as the Nightforce. But again, the Nightforce and the SAI have the better long-range reticle design, which is why the Nightforce is currently the top LPVO choice for combat carbines. These guys truly know how to make a reticle, and if they only made a BDC, well, they do actually in the limited release MARSOC Attacker, if you don't mind the extra weight and that bad non-illuminated 1x. But I also can't convince myself to drop the $3,000 to buy one. Charting all of this out, we have reticle thickness, as well as the weight, bezel sizes pertaining to the sight picture. These optics like the NX8 may weigh less, but that also comes at the cost of a very thick bezel looking through a tube. Splitting the reticle into two categories for distance on max magnification, and then a black-only 1x. They all have a pretty bad 1x minus the Credo, with the Nightforce Attacker, NX8, and PLXC having the best red dot bright 1x. Looking at this chart, you can decide which feature is the most important to you. I was very close to going with the Nightforce NX8, since it has the FC DMX reticle, a bright 1x, and is also super lightweight, but I hate the super thick bezel. The PLXC have thin bezels, but I don't like the horseshoe reticle on the PLXC. I love the SAI and Attacker reticles, but the SAI is lighter, but the Nightforce has more magnification. But the Nightforce is in mils, but it does have a BDC version that doesn't have a wind hold shot correction tree. But the BDC and the SAI doesn't illuminate as well on 1x compared to the Nightforce or PLXC, and the SIG still sucks on 1x and max magnification. If your brain is scattered after all that mumbo jumbo, that's normal. Mine is too, because there's not a perfect LPVO out there yet, but we are close. At the end of the day, I decided to go with the SAI because it has a thin bezel, it's super lightweight, and has a crosshair BDC reticle, which I like more than all of the other reticles available. I still like running a BDC for general purpose rifles over mil, unless I'm shooting real long distances. If the illumination is your thing to save the 1x issue, definitely get the Nightforce. The reticle is not close to any type of useful, since it lacks a bright 1x, but hey, all batteries die pretty quick on LPVOs, and we all end up with black reticles, which helped me decide against the Nightforce, which is my very close second choice. This means we will all most likely have to go with option 3 to solve the red dot dilemma, but first let's mount this thing and get it zeroed. I chose to bust out my old Aero lightweight mount to keep this thing around 21 ounces total on a 14.5 pin and weld. LPVO setups do feel chunky in long-term use, so this should keep it slim after I first get it zeroed at 100 yards using the center crosshair, and then true it in at 300 yards using the 300 meter point of aim. This reticle is built for meters out of a 16-inch barrel, so a 14.5 in yards should line up pretty nice, which it surely did. With some targets placed on a meter-based range, we can plot out a 16-inch barrel trajectory out to 400 and mark the impacts accordingly. Since I'll be using the lower velocity 14.5 inch barrel, you can see the trajectory will descend a bit lower as it impacts out to 400 meters. Now this wouldn't line up on the BDC, but if we pull back some targets based in yards, you can see the impact points come up at these closer increments, which falls pretty close where the BDC predicts the impacts will be on the reticle. Remember, if you want, you can just run the mill version, but here the BDC is going to work just fine in yards. Now that she's trued in, it's time to do some shooting. Here I wanted to just run the optic on 3 to 4x to see if I could put targets down out to 300 unsupported. 3 to 4x is a good magnification range you can use up close or mid-range without having to zoom, losing your control and sight picture. This next positional stuff will force me to do the same thing, but see how fast I can get back on target and get the impact as fast as possible. Nothing special here, I'm just familiarizing myself to a practical distance with this reticle, which at this point I'm still in love with.
That shot was hot. Hold like. Miss. Hit. That was not stable. Hit. Nice shot. SAI6.
That shell melted my motherfucking elbow. Here I'm attempting a Matt Pranka drill, forgetting my front lens cap as I test the 1x performance. I usually don't like the front lens cover since I run from a low ready 99.9% of the time. And all this does is waste time since this optic doesn't have a bright enough reticle to use occluded. After this range session, I immediately removed the cap and decided to run the included K-flash for a while instead. You can always use some tape to cat eye the optic as well if you're not a fan. Here was my first time meeting the Whiskey Hotel guys who wanted to test me under some minor stress shooting. In the offline world where I really live, I gained their approval as well as losing my rear cap. This wasn't the first nor the last time losing this cap, but I do think some kind of ocular lens cover is handy to have due to real world weather, and these guys showed me their personal tape method to secure my cap. It's not perfect, but a good method you should adopt at minimum. I'd even consider glue, to be honest, with a later caveat to that. Here I was testing an early Ridge Racer route with the boys, where I was further proving that magnified optics crush red dot only builds as a general purpose optic. Yes, skill has a bigger outcome on this, but I demonstrated in my Ridge Racer video you can see how much faster magnified optics get the job done. I then invited some high-level shooters running magnified optics to come compete against me on a demo route to step up the competition level a bit. Again, skill is the biggest determining factor regardless of the equipment. So having some pipe hitters bring their 1 to 8 and 1 to 10 optics to compete was a good test to see if this optic could still hang against high-skilled opponents. Here I figured an even playing field could show me if my optic reticle or having lower magnification was any type of negative factor with this SAI. So far this optic reticle was everything I hoped it was.
That's it. No hit. That was it. Barrel to your left. Barrel. Blue barrel. Good job. Tree branch. Nice. Keep it up. Branch. My bad. There it is.
Branch again.
Branch.
It was.
Tree branch. Oh no, no trees. Tree branch. Damn, last one. Load.
I went and spent time seeing if I could focus not only on speed against others, but focusing on only getting precision hits with speed. Only getting A zones.
A zone.
This is where something like a crappy eye box or reticle flaws can be exposed, like covering the A zone with a thicker reticle, not having a good reference point for shooting off angle.
Nice. Last round. Time.
15624.
Checking the targets, I was able to secure all A zone hits, confirming my predictions for this reticle. Aside from losing the rear cap constantly, I had my first real annoyance. While deciding to throw to 1x, my optic turned in the mount. 6 months in this arrow mount held up, but me over just like it did with my acupoints. Now I could run the old Recon mount, but it lacks top and side mount options I want for this bad 1x solution number 3, a backup red dot. The Night Force mount lacks the mount mods I want, but my good old Geisley mount does in fact accept the Reptilia ROF top dot mount. It just lacks the side mount options unless I run the Arasaka offset. But then I remembered it's 2024 and there are better options for magnified optics. So I picked up the Reptilia mount, which has side mounting mod options like a canted dot, to test against the top dot position. I could get the Badger Ordnance since it uses the much stronger torque nuts like the Geisley does, but it's not compatible with the Reptilia top mounts. And I don't like the annoyance of snag factor or blocking the charging handle during malfunctions using the mortar method, when your nuts are stuck to the left side of the mount. The reason I run my ACOG mounts to the right. This sealed the deal for the Reptilia AUS mount since it uses slim mounting hardware avoiding my gripes, as well as its modular options like running this RMR HD up top. Now after zeroing again, I did a bit of shooting to familiarize myself with this mount. I just came off running the 5X Prism with a top dot, so this won't be too foreign for the next 6 months. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the SAI6 video. There's a video link in the description. It goes over a GoFundMe because I have the chance to possibly buy my local range. And I honestly can't do it without you guys, or I wouldn't ask. If you've been following me for a long time, you know this. I buy everything myself, but this is one I can't do on my own. Don't mind him. He was wearing the wrong camo that got issued to him. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the video. This mount doesn't sit as far forward as the Aero SPR mount, so I wanted to run some 1x drills to test the eye box with this new eye relief distance I set it to. I was worried maybe it'd be too far back, but it ran fine, even though this 1x is still terrible. To be fair, this close you could just point shoot like I'm about to demonstrate. This rifle has no optics at all, which I'll just point shoot on this Ben Stoker drill. You got your pro?
I'm good to go. Stand by. Oh, ain't it?
Alpha, Alpha, Charlie, Charlie, Alpha, Charlie, Alpha, Alpha. That was too close to test, so let's go back a bit and do an accelerator drill at 10, 20, and 25 yards. No optic, with a second lateral one here.
Stand by. B72, let's check the target. Alpha, Alpha. Hit the line. Charlie Alpha. Delta Delta still hits. Let's see if I got this guy. Oh, Alpha Charlie.
Looks like in a pinch I'll be fine if I can't see my reticle point blank. At this range you'd be surprised that 1x doesn't even matter. Something M26 Lemon Grenade employed at my Spring Ridge Racer inside the shoot house at CQB distances. A method he's used in the Battle of Fallujah running 20-inch barrels. After that, I wanted to compare the bad 1x on the optic with some quick target transitions in comparison to the top dot as a solution for close-range 1x performance. The top dot worked better since I can actually see it, but this is much better for night vision and positional work, which you'll see real soon compared to the Canon 1x option for these inside 100-yard distances. After these sessions and other footage not recorded, my rear cap finally took a crap. The cap return spring had been abused so much it stopped flipping open to the side even when I forced it back into place. Not much I can do about this besides switching to an alternative rear cap design. After running all these tests and more offline, I decided that your home turf is a bit of an advantage since I know the distances and layout. So it was time to pack up my new favorite LPVO and go compete on new territory. I got invited to take a DMR-1 course from the crew at Whiskey Hotel, the second training course I've ever taken at this point in my life. I favor rifle marksmanship the most personally, so this was right up my alley. This is where I met Jimmy, a prior 11 Bravo who shares a similar mindset to myself, loves to teach and facilitate, also a phenomenal rifleman. This was mostly a classroom-heavy course, which I'll leave to be desired, but I was able to secure a top qualification award here with the SAI. On to DMR2, a very shooting-heavy event. We started with some fieldcraft training, and you'll notice the arrow mount still working within the first 6 months here from earlier in the video.
That's nice.
Put some love. All the other fundamentals and principles. We're at straight rearward pressure through the gun into our body. So.
We then focused on tons of positional work, which I'll only briefly show, using common items on person to your advantage. Just know that positional work is some of the best training you can do to take on any situation you may find yourself in behind a rifle. I learned some tasty tricks here, as well as being a natural from doing so much of this stuff back home. We later moved on to some shooter-shooter drills with partners no problem, as well as shooter-spotter training, which we made quick work of. There were some very skilled drills in this course I have experience with, which allowed me to finish the day with a top shot along 2 others.
Buy an extra here. Let's use it.
We finished up with some bounding drills, applying everything from the course, and I had a blast. A few months later, me and my buddy Brian signed up for a Save the Kids match. This is an all-day and night match that focuses on saving children from active degenerates and PDF files, and all proceeds go to an Abused Children Foundation. This also gave me a chance to test this top RMR HD in the mid position on my now installed Reptilia mount, as well as the forward RMR position. I often see dots further forward, yet realize this position is not only far enough forward to spare any contact with my nods passively, but this position also protects the rear of the LPVO from hard contact, where they usually bend in the event I bang this thing up. I'd rather hit the RMR fixed to the mounting ring than the rear of the optic. In this middle position, I had no problem finding my dot passively. We crushed this match all day and night, up until the last few stages. Hard to explain here, but I ran this whole match passively without white light or an IR device, just to see how well passive aiming can compete. And we still secured 4th place overall with the SAI and an LCAN against some heavy competition. After the event, we got to play with some heat detection devices, wink wink, as well as some LRF and clip-on NV setups. There's nothing like an LRF and a Mark 12 hitting out to 500 meters in the pitch black in about 3 seconds. This SAI6 reticle was great behind the heat mode since the rapid aiming feature helps guide you to center on doo-doo resolution. Some reticles are too fine, or too messy in my opinion, where this one was super clean and easy to read on target. I had no problem getting hits and using the BDC 1 through 6X, since zooming in too far doesn't play nice with low resolution out to distance. After this match, it was time to conclude the training cycle with DMR3 in the absolute wet, cold Southern Ohio hills. This course started class with some self-concealment and camo, as well as rifle camo, and then straight back into the wet cold to practice locating by way of sight and sound, at distance and elevation. This weather is a good test of your weapon system like an open emitter dot, as well as why I harp on having a rear cap, and then straight into reacting to contact against concealed targets.
12 o'clock, left of the berm! Left of the berm! Yell on target!
Time for Bravo team to flank to the left in the low riverbank, while I attempt to bound to cover. Deploying tripods or using makeshift positions come in handy here when higher shooting positions are needed, as we are at a higher elevation level. Here my can is starting to create water vapor in front of my optic from the moisture blocking my view. I readjust to get sight on target, while B team is starting to have some trouble. A quick reload for me while navigating this self-induced fog from my can, and Bravo team is hit with a malfunction. He eventually gets it cleared while I'm wondering if this suppressor wrap is my problem with moisture, but I'm not really sure a bare can would be any better. I got through it with this great glass and sat on 6X to power through the fog. Next, we began our combat force-on-force stalking, with the first team trying to find threats hidden out in Mother Nature, and the second team on the reverse end stalking the urban center, which was us. At the go, we headed out from our hidden position carefully to evade any detection, while also trying to spot their sentinels. Pause was called as they attempted to draw first blood, sending flaggers to positive ID one of my boys. But don't worry. They don't know we got an All-American in our crew who's thirsty for a counterattack. You guys are making a lot of branch moving. Here we await to see if we have to send a letter home to someone's mom, only to find the enemy didn't hit squat. Where you at, Clint? Wave your hand. But don't worry. Our 82nd Savage took a few out right after.
Good job, Jake.
Here I pushed closer towards the city in God's Plaid to capture some flags. This helps force movement and certain destruction of a team, as well as gains a new angle to find these sneaky cowards as I deal with Mother Nature. This is where a lens cloth comes in handy so that I can get a good sight picture limited to 6X, while Brian captures another flag and continues to call in his Elcan Spectre strikes on the enemy.
Freeze the hillside and unfreeze the creek side.
We continued to stalk, and this SAI maintained a great sight picture all day with a little wipe here and there. And Brian ended up getting all 3 flags to win the first round with his not doing so well Elcan, an open emitter dot. He was the most aggressive one and had no choice. Only running 4X, he had to get in closer compared to me with 6X, and the Grim Reaper with 10X in the back. Round 2 ran out of time with no official winner due to nightfall and hypothermia approaching. And what a good time this was, until I got home. As I removed the K-Flash device to clean my optic, the front tube extension started to unthread on me. My heart broke since this houses the front lens on the optic that I've bonded with over the last year. I emailed ATI and they were so cool about getting me a replacement out immediately. I tried to buy this one back for a durability test, but since they had never seen this before, they wanted to use it for some R&D. Using this optic in and out of the cold for over a year, I think had expanded and contracted the metal so many times, the K-Flash device must have bitten so hard and seized. I was sad to see this go back after all the memories, but I had to get this new one zeroed for the final run going into 2025, the Winter Team Ruck Match. I'll be running my new SAI6 alongside my Ruck Partners Night Force Attacker 1-8, my number 2 LPVO choice. This is a top-notch reticle for DMR work if you prefer mill, and we got all the dope for his ammo choice ready. Impact. This event started off with actual rucking for data collection at the turnaround point.
deltathirtyfour!
You have to report back the hidden message to prove you actually completed the distance before moving on to shooting stages.
I feel so honored.
Like casualty evacuation. This stage, you must get the wounded through tunnels, as well as over some walls, before you can get back to your rifle to engage for points. Integrated in was a team medical stage where you must perform first aid while your partner covers fire, and then rotate out for points against these two here, also known as the guys to beat. This event had some tough competition, and earlier in the day my partner had some malfunctions with his buffer tube we thought would be good, and we sat in the bottom half of the ranking currently. We decided to just have some fun, winning together or losing together, and do our best moving forward into the next ruck stage. Using your optics in these situations really gets them banged up, especially as we get this semi-tire rigged up and up this steep hill before the real distance begins. My partner had a plan for rigging, and I will be pulling it from the top. His caveman strength came into play here, and we got our data and returned the tire to its start location. We started crushing the other stages after this, but here we head out to the final stage. Here we must read a drill and help each other load out for a task. We each complete our string of fire, and then rush back to set up for our teammate. As fast as we could, we got our hits with a few hang-ups.
Bolt did not lock back.
But kept our spirit high to finish. I have plenty of fundamental time to reload from my chest rig fast while getting hits on target, here specifically on 3X. This magnification is very versatile for general carbines and to see my reticle center on this rough 1X design. just as proof. Yeah. We were able to hit all alphas here with only one close Charlie. This whole match was one of the funnest events I've done, from movement, tasks, and stage design. And we were somehow able to come back to win second place out of something like 52 teams. Day one of my spring Ridge Racer match, which you'll see soon, was won by a competitor also using a SAI6, proving it's capable to hang with the rest. This reticle is almost perfect for a general carbine, even though it needs a better 1X design and Night Force level illumination. But did you notice this whole video I was able to hang in there with only 6X? So I'm obviously in love with this reticle, aside from the illumination and or the 1X struggle. With the top dot option, I basically run this thing on 3 to 4X and magnify to 6 when needed, so it's gonna stay in my arsenal. Can't find any reason I would get rid of this. Depending on your use case, you could desire more magnification, like a 2 to 8 or 2 to 10 for DMR matches, because there is an advantage to distance, no argument there. The second platoon winner of my spring Ridge Racer was one using a 2 to 10 Credo, which lacks a 1X, to make a good argument for its necessity. You could even go the 3 to 9 route, since they're also getting smaller and lighter, but second focal plane. If you like 3 to 9 and 1X is your thing, you could go 1 to 3 to 9, but that's for another video. We now have a family of 1 to 10s popping up, like the Vortex Razor 1 to 10 with the EBR reticle. It was so mind-blowing at the time, it was a love-hate reaction due to illumination refracting on the reticle, or the again hard to see 1X, solved by adding a red dot combo. The reticle design isn't bad, and it eliminates the almost unnecessary 100-200 yard point of aim dilemma, but it's still a bit heavy. Well, Vortex solved that by bringing out the AMG 1 to 10, just not for us. This thing is made out of 7075 unobtainium, a rare metal not available to us. It is super lightweight, and it's crazy compact for being a 1 to 10, with, in my opinion, a cleaner reticle, both in a MOA BDC version and on the new British KS1 rifle, a MIL version. Since unavailable, I decided to keep rocking the SAI until I went to SHOT Show 2025 with my ambitious reticle improvements for the SAI. I was hoping to whisper into the ears of ATI a way to fix my beloved reticle with a larger ring to see better on 1X and change the illumination a bit to center. No kidding, they instantly smiled and told me to hold on to my overpriced Red Bull. They told me I should look at their new 1 to 10 coming out with new reticle improvements. It has thicker rapid aiming marks to see better on 1X like the PLXC and Credo, inside of a 19-ounce 1 to 10. These will be produced in Canada and utilize a 30mm tube instead of a 34mm tube to keep the weight down, and I personally didn't notice an overly sensitive eye box inside of the tube. Light transmission may be a small thing, but I speculate they plan to use top-notch glass upon release. They changed which part of the reticle also illuminates so that it will be easier to pick up for 1X work. After seeing the reticle, the weight, the new shorter size, I decided I am 100% picking one of these up to see if it enhances my competition experience. To prove it, I picked up a limited OD green AUS mount for this 1 to 10 whenever it drops, although I don't think any optic is perfect just yet. This one still doesn't use Vortex, Night Force, or PLXC level brightness, so I'll be back to running this on 3X, I'm guessing, and hope that the 10X makes a difference. Hopefully one day we'll get all the best features in one place, and so far Canada is putting up a good fight. Huge thanks to everyone watching, and especially to everyone who has donated and shared already to my local range fund. Your charity and trust will affect thousands of your fellow countrymen and women. So I thank you and hope you enjoy the next few videos I have in store.